So you can feel free to face me or face the camera. It's up to you.
I'll talk with you. So.
Okay.
It looks weird talking to a camera.
It kind of would. So this is the interview with Student Disability Services here in the library at Central Michigan University. Could I ask you to introduce yourself and your role here?
My name is Susie Root, and I am the Director of Student Disability Services here at Central Michigan University.
Thank you for taking the time to do this interview with me, Susie.
Anytime.
What's your role here at Student Disability Services?
My role as director is I do a number of things. One of the primary things that I do is I work with students. I evaluate the documentation that they may bring, depending on where it's from, either from high school, from a psychiatrist, a psychologist, their medical doctor, to get an understanding of what their impairment is. And then I work with the student to determine reasonable accommodations to help them participate here at CMU, both in the classroom, in residence halls, and in any other activity that they may be involved with. I also work within the Enrollment and Student Services Division to ensure that as a whole, students have the support services that they need and that they are making sufficient progress towards graduation. No, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
So what is the goal overall for Student Disability Services and what they can do for students?
Our goal overall is to make sure that anybody with a disability or an impairment, be that permanent or temporary, has the support that they need to participate and like anybody else in class. A perfect example of that is we have a young man who came in yesterday who broke his hand. And he broke his writing hand. He's like, what do I do? It's like, okay. So we have note takers in his classrooms for him. He gets extended time on tests because it takes longer to figure it out. And he gets a scribe on tests. So that even though he can't physically write, he still gets all the information from class. He still takes his tests like everybody else. He just does it in a slightly different way. And that's our goal, is to make sure that everybody with or without a disability can participate as seamlessly as possible. And we do that a lot of different ways. If it's with a scribe or a note taker, or a sign language interpreter, or testing accommodations, we do classroom accommodations, we do living residence hall accommodations, anything like that.
So you have your hands full quite often here.
Yes. Yes. You never know what's coming in the door.
Like, what's the most mild thing that somebody can probably come in here for? Like, is a lot of students really not sure if they're considered disabled underneath CMU's kind of policy that they have?
Yep. It's really hard, and disability is something that is very difficult for people to accept sometimes within themselves. We had a student who has now graduated. She, by other people's definition, was severely disabled. She used a wheelchair. She had to have someone help her get up, get dressed. She had to have someone help feed her, whole 9 yards. But she was extremely independent. She never missed a class. She studied abroad all 3 summers she was here. She is now in graduate school in Australia. So by her definition, she was incredibly independent. But for someone else to look at her, they go, oh, she's disabled. So it can be hard to understand that. We tell anybody who is struggling, if you're struggling, come see us. Because then we can figure out, talking with the student, if it is a traditional or a classic disability, like a learning disability. It takes you longer to read something, or you read it but you don't understand it, kind of thing. Or if it's a study skills, I don't really know how to study. You know, why when I'm sitting in my dorm room in front of the television with my chemistry book open, I don't understand what I'm reading. It's not an optimal place to study. To maybe it's a stress thing of I understand it, I get into the test and I blank. Okay, that's test anxiety, that's a counseling issue. Study skills is an academic coach can help. Disability, we can help. So we tell anybody that's struggling, come in and we'll figure out how to help them. So even if you think, well, I've never had a disability in my life and I don't particularly want one, but I'm just not getting organic chemistry. I don't understand it. Come in. We'll help you figure out what support service is appropriate and we'll get you there.
All right, one last question. What would you recommend to any freshmen or transfer students coming into CMU?
I would recommend connecting with your academic advisor and connecting with a success coach and having conversations with those people. Your academic advisor sees hundreds of freshmen, and so their thought train could be, oh, you need an English, you need a math, you need a science, you need a this. But you may be the type of person that you're not going to work well in 8 o'clock classes, or if you're like me, you don't work well in night classes, but you love the 8 o'clock classes. And balancing out the reading with the math, with the hands-on. So have a conversation with your academic advisor. And the first assignment you get back, the very first assignment you get back in class, that's an indicator of how you're doing in that class. And if you're not where you want to be, that's the time to go and look for help. And that's the second or third week. It's not, we had a young man who came in yesterday in the 13th week, in the third day, and said, I'm not passing my class. I'm like, Pumpkin, we got a week and a half left. We can't salvage 13 weeks in one. So get help early, even if it's a B, and you're like, well, I'm not really happy with it. Go then. Go see the academic success coaches.
Okay, again, thank you very much.
Anytime. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Cool. There you go.
Yep. So let me see if it works really quick.
Awesome.